Seamus Heaney once said, "Not to learn Irish is to miss the opportunity of understanding what life in this country has meant and could mean in a better future. It is to cut oneself off from ways of being at home." If we regard self-understanding, mutual understanding, imaginative enhancement, cultural diversity, and a tolerant political atmosphere as desirable attainments, we should remember that a knowledge of the Irish language is an essential element in their realisation. In order to fully understand the language, we must first understand the way in which it came to Ireland through both facts and mythology. The story of the language dates back thousands of years, charting the history of the island from the Tuatha Dé Danann and their overthrow to the Gaels travelling west to escape the Roman army of Julius Caesar. They sighted a land to the north, which the Gaels named Inishfil, the land of destiny, but in modern times is known as Ireland. In Ireland, the language flourished through telling of stories, mythology, and poetry. The reinvigoration of the language has happened in recent times with a growing modern Ireland. Irish is now not only the daily language of thousands in the Gaeltacht regions of the island, but has also become the daily language of an ever-growing number of children in Irish medium education settings across the island. Tá airneall na Gaeilge ag foas le rint blianta anuas, go hairithe a go hex an Gael idithe. Tá tuairim is 7,000 dalta chláirithe sa chóras Gael idithe inis sa bhliain fiche a gcomparáid leis an 5,000 a bhí chláirithe a fiche deag. Is léir go bhfuil rathart ar an Gael idithe sa lá atá aniuan. Luairmuid sa muinteoirí príomhhaidí agus tacadóirí an teanga, faoin eispéiris a bhí acu leis an teanga. Go hairithe a ggóthaics an fan déim COVID-19.
I suppose one of the greatest challenges that I see Irish medium education facing is a lack of awareness around the advantages of immersion education and how positive that has been. 2/3 of the world's population speaks more than one language, and learning in an immersion environment is a unique educational journey that it allows pupils to develop not only academically, but to grow into confident young people equipped with the skills that you need for the world nowadays. There was a fantastic program that ran in schools a few years ago called the Primary Languages Program. And when you watch pupils learning a language in schools, they're engaged, they're active, they're having fun. And that's what a normal day is like in an Irish medium school every day.
I think it's great now that schools do have the opportunity where Irish teachers can come in do the English medium schools, and they do have their couple of focal before they go, and they're made aware that there are schools where children only speak Irish all day long. Although I know sometimes when I tell people what my job is and I explain that I work in an Irish medium primary school, I would get a lot of questions like, so do the children speak Irish all day? So do you do maths in Irish? Do you do science in Irish? And my answer to them is yes. And a lot of the time I've had people really surprised that, oh, surely that makes school twice as hard. But it doesn't. Children are picking up the Irish naturally. They're hearing it all day long, and so to them it's not, oh, we're learning Irish right now. They're just learning how to do their everyday things through the medium of Irish.
Main benefits of bilingualism, I suppose, would be that the children are immersed in a second language. So from an early age, they're using both sides of their brain, which isn't what happens normally when a child is developing. It opens up doors to their future in that they have already learned a second language, which means they pick up further languages really easily. It shows that you're a particular type of learner. Cultural side of it as well, and it makes them open to that. It opens their minds to diversity. It opens their mind to how we can all be different. We can all learn in different ways, but that we're all special and that we all have our own talents.
More work here as somebody who has Irish than there is with somebody who has French or Spanish or German or whatever, and that's just the reality. The Irish language sector has grown massively and continues to grow. They can't get enough teachers. They can't get enough people to work in the schools who have Irish.
My first memory of the language is right back in primary 3. the teacher we had at the time, Sister Anne, would have taught us our couple of focal. So we would have learned a few wee phrases, just Oscail and Doris, Dridge and Inyog, things like that. And I remember being so excited going home and telling my mommy, oh, I can speak Irish now as well. And it only was those few words, but it stayed with me, and I was delighted when I could use it then at secondary school to learn even more.
My mommy didn't have a notion about schools, and whenever it was time for me to go to nursery, she had went round all the schools in the area asking how to enrol me. And to be honest with you, all the English speaking schools kind of turned her at the door, but the Irish school in Belfast, they took me in, and that's how it all started. I went under their knee school, and I haven't looked back since. What made me fall in love with the language was just how beautiful it is itself. I have been learning it since I was 2 or 3 years old, and ever since it's just been such a massive part of my life. I have used Irish every single day since I was no age, and my favourite part is probably all the friends that come with it. It's just beautiful being able to share something so important as a language with all these people that have come along throughout my life.
When you begin to learn Irish and start speaking it, you're a member of a community then. And you know, we had the chance, even right back at school, we had the chance to go to extra trips and quizzes and things with pupils from other schools, and it was purely because we were speaking Irish. It's just a great opportunity to get out there and meet new people and just be a member of another group as well.
I think once again, when you're back thinking about whenever you were in secondary school, going to the Gaeltacht and places like that, you know, that sense of community, as I say. So, you know, whenever you're able to use your language with lots of other people outside of kind of the school, but it's still kind of in a fun, you know, safe environment. So I think for everybody, that's kind of where you enjoy your Irish language, and you realise, you know, I don't need to use it in the classroom, I can use it outside as well.
So I'm a primary school teacher, and I absolutely love my job. It is so lovely being able to get into school every single day and seeing all the wee smiley faces looking up to see. You have to be really passionate whenever it comes to teaching Irish, because a lot of it is behind the scenes where you're making your own resources and you're making your own plans, because you can't just go on the internet and Google it. So there's a lot of translating involved too, and I feel that Irish teachers are a lot more passionate because they have to put this extra love and care into the teaching. I myself have made my own Facebook page called Gaelic Sawalia, which has hopefully helped support people at home whenever it comes to promoting the language.
Currently I teach in primary 3, and I love my job. No day is the same as the other, and you know, every day you're coming home with a different wee story or a nice memory from that day. From a resource side of things, often I found while I'm working in Irish schools, I'm creating a lot of the resources myself. I'm sure my colleagues in many other schools throughout the country were doing the same thing. I have a few friends who teach in similar year groups, and we were sharing resources among ourselves. And I just thought, wouldn't it be great if there were a platform for teachers to share the resources that they've made, so we're not reinventing the wheel and everyone's making the same worksheet in their own houses.
Maybe we didn't necessarily get the same funding, or, you know, our resources were we didn't get the same as English schools. That's what I did feel, but it didn't really matter to me because we were in a kind of small community. There was only so many children in the class, so we just made do.
We do have some things, but not enough, and I think our children deserve what children in English medium schools would have. No, it was an awful time. I'll never forget it, put it like that. I would be fairly good at coping with pressure, but I just never felt pressure like it. Don't want to be the person accountable for someone getting COVID on site, or whatever, our member of staff getting COVID on site.
We all understand, you know, the context of a pandemic is not something any of us have been through before, and if we had a lot more time, we could prepare things a lot more thoroughly. And teachers are doing their very best, but invariably the person who is at the end of that is the principal, the person who's carrying the responsibility as the principal. And throughout, additional burdens and workloads have been placed onto the shoulders of school leaders, and a big one at the moment is contact tracing on behalf of the Public Health Agency. So when there is a positive identified case of COVID, the school principal invariably has to spend ages and ages, many hours identifying who close contacts were and contacting all of those families.
At the very beginning of this pandemic, it was at this point where we were deciding ourselves, were we going to protect our communities by closing? We had to change overnight, basically. People had plans for what we were going to do after St. Patrick's Day. We had schemes of work, we had all our resources, we were ready to go, and that had to change literally overnight.
Right across all age groups, the pandemic has had a very significant impact on learning and teaching. Of course, that period of lockdown was very difficult for everyone. One of the great difficulties, of course, was trying to provide remote learning for children whenever they were at home. The expectation was a very difficult one, given the fact that not all schools were equipped in the same way with resources, and not all children and families and their home backgrounds had access to the same resources.
My favourite saying in Irish is "an rud is annu is iontach," which means what seldom is wonderful.
I heard in Gaeltacht, which I thought was beautiful. The word for hug is barrog, but when I was in Donegal, they say Christeach, which is heart in heart, Christeach.
My favourite phrase in Irish is Ní neart go cur le chéile, which means there is no strength without unity.
The word for a school leader or head teacher in Irish is Príomhuide, which means Prío means chief and Huide means fosterer or carer. So the word for principal actually means chief carer. And the word for the teacher, Muncher, speaks of a mother hen's wing over her little brood of children. It's all about fosterage. In fact, the old word for a pupil or a child in education in Irish is Dalta, which speaks of fosterage, a foster child. And I think those principles are something that's just woven through the very fabric of Irish medium education.